Okay. Hi everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Chats with Joewackle and Adoma.
Yeah, is that what you're calling this?
You said I should make it up. Okay. I'm making it up as I'm going. And today we have the prolific.
Like that.
What other adjectives should I add?
What other adjectives do you think are deserving?
I want you to contribute to this as well. I don't want to be the one saying everything. So.
I think I'm incredible.
Incredible.
I'm amazing.
Yeah, that's true. If you say one that doesn't match, I'll cancel.
Okay, I'm fantastic.
Okay, yeah.
I'm so sweet.
Yeah, very true.
Listen.
So,
how are you doing? What's up with you?
I'm doing amazing.
What have you been up to?
Life and living it. It's the title of my life right now, but it's been amazing for the most part.
And what chapter are we at?
Oh, we're still writing.
You're still writing?
Yeah, I don't think we've gone very far in the writing, but yeah, we're still writing.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, so today we're going to be talking about Goodbye Gold Coast. Do you have anything you want to add? We're going to be tennising.
All right, so I feel like let's talk about first things first, right? Mm-hmm. When I called you and I told you I might have something for you, I might have a project I would need you on, what was going through your mind, or how was that moment?
I think, I can't remember when it started, but for me, when you said that, it was like, finally, because we've been having a lot of conversations over the years, and there's always been, I have you in mind for something, Adoma, I have you, and I'm just like, okay, when, and then I'll see Joewackle is doing something, I wasn't part of it. I'm like, all right, cool. So when I got that, I was like, finally, yes, I've gotten the call, because I've really been looking forward to working with you. I'm a huge fan.
Stop it, don't do that.
Oh no, I'm serious. Like the little things that you do.
Don't stop.
So yeah, I was very excited and ready to go.
Yeah, for me, I have also really wanted to work with you for a very long time, and I actually think I remember our very first encounter, right? I remember our very first encounter. Do you want to? Should I remind you? You might not remember, right? But then we were at the cafeteria in JIG, right? Yes.
I met you in JIG.
Yes. We were in this cafeteria, right? And I was trying to grab a drink from the fridge, but you were the closest person to the fridge, and you grabbed it for me, and you said your name was Joy.
Yes.
Yes, that was our very first interaction. And
I have no correction. Wow.
Yes. Yeah, it sounds like something that makes really the intro of a good rom-com. See, it's just there. But here we are now. The leading lady of one of my favorite projects that I've entirely worked on.
Yeah, that's amazing. If anybody had asked me this, I would never have thought that we went as far back as GIG.
Yes, that's as far back as that.
That's crazy.
Yes, that's crazy.
I have 2 other friends or so that say they met me at GIG and I don't remember.
I have very bad memory in general, but then I have really good memory for really insignificant things, like how we met. If you ask me that thing from GIG, there's a high probability I wouldn't remember. But then again, I still don't know why I thought that particular moment stayed with me for a very long time. So the point where I had seen you perform on stage, I had seen you perform on screen, and I have done whenever I had a project I wanted to work on, I needed to see you in a different light that I hadn't seen you. And for me, I fell in love with your voice, first of all, before even seeing you on screen. And the idea of you that I have is this fantastic, really beautiful woman whose voice, I used to say, before I cast you for Goodbye Gold Coast, I used to say you were the perfect leading lady, because I believe in the past, right, kings will go for war for your beauty.
Hey.
That's what I really thought.
Wow.
I just imagined, and if I do you have this? Do you have a timeless beauty, like a classic beauty? Okay.
Wow.
Do you know that?
Oh, please, that girls don't blush. So.
Oh.
gosh.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, so even though I was working with the voice, I just wanted when people imagine the face or when people finally see the face behind the voice, they go like, it was worth it. That's why they found themselves in such a difficult position.
Okay.
Yeah, let's talk about, is there any question you have for me?
Oh, all right. So we're back to Goodbye Gold Coast. Okay, so first question I'll ask is, what inspired Goodbye Gold Coast? Why did you feel like you wanted to tell the story of that era now?
That's a good one.
That's just the first one.
That's a very good question.
I have quite a
Honestly.
list.
Oh, wow. I should have come prepared. I think generally I love stories of everyday people, like the small stories that make up big history. Because if you think about Ghana's independence, it was a big deal, not for just Ghana, but then also for the entire continent. And it was happening. And people were still living, like regardless. There were people who were going to school. There were people who were going for outdooring, like in the case of Uncle Boats. There were like normal life was happening, right? And then independence was also happening. And for me, I generally love the story of the everyday people on historic backdrops. And outside of that as well, I love telling, I've always wanted to make a romantic film, right? And then I felt like, okay, how about I start with an audio drama that is in itself like very romantic and then also very historic. And love happens to be a universal theme where wherever you are, wherever you happen to find yourself, you have been in love with someone before. It could be platonic, it could be romantic, it could be even in family setting. Love really does exist. But then also another theme I was trying to explore was loss, having to decide, because in as much as independence was like the rebirth for all of us, it was also loss for some people as well. So having to explore that was very important to me. So I was just looking for the everyday human story on a historic backdrop like Ghana's independence.
Love it.
And what was your first impression when you read the script?
I loved how creative it was. I thought it was very creative because people, of course, work on projects, especially that like to, talk about our independence or creative things around that sphere. But to have a story that said, for example, like when you hear Goodbye Gold Coast, you're not going to think that it's going to be about a regular Ghanaian.
Yeah.
You would think maybe you want to zero in on the life of Kwame Nkrumah or someone close to that family or someone who was powerful in that era. So I really, really thought it was creative. It felt like almost like teleporting yourself to that era and just being a fly on the wall in someone's house in that era and just snooping around. Yeah, and I thought that was really cool. It was like a fresh perspective. I really loved even just, I know I was part of the project, but like just listening to it and that scene, I always get chills anytime I listen to the scene where Reginald and Rose are talking and then Kwame Nkrumah is like at the back. Like it was very, very, I think it was very
Go listen to Goodbye Gold Coast. Who do I talk to? Them, right? Go listen to Goodbye Gold Coast.
You should.
Wherever you listen to your podcast, you feel me? Yeah, to get a sense of what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And let's talk about your role. And what was the first thing what was the first thing that came to mind, right? Or the first thing you did in preparation for Rose? And first of all, I would like you to tell us who Rose is from your own perspective.
Okay. Rose, from my understanding of her before I played or when I read the script, she's a very well-educated, very well-versed in political matters and cares very deeply about Ghana. And she's also a teacher, so obviously cares about impacting wisdom and, just the culture to the young people at that time. And I think that's her goal, her driving force. Everything else around. I mean, she has her family, her uncle who she doesn't really get along with, but then. If you look at it, the tension in all the small relationships that she had, or all the other relationships that she had, this was like the main thing driving it, I think. Her uncle and her being at loggerheads was because she had a very firm belief about the things that she had a firm belief about, like the country getting better, Ghana standing on her own and not leaning on our colonizers. Yes, and even with her friends, I feel like she attracted people who were the same, because MFA too was the same. And when it came to her children and like teaching her school children, teaching them, it was always about trying to make sure that they know where they come from and they are proud of that and they stand. I always thought that's her philosophy in life. So she's very, very intelligent, very passionate, of course, very in love with, unfortunately, the colonizer, but still. It didn't draw her away from what she stands for. I mean, love is love. We love who we love.
I saw one comment about your character, and what someone really loved about your character was how, in as much as you were teaching these children, when Dorothy kept saying, Ni Lankwe is speaking vernacular, how you just didn't even care to pay any attention to. How important is language to you as an artist?
Oh, language is very important. But I don't think, how do I phrase this? Language is very important because that's how we communicate. But then again, I think in some cases and in some art forms, it goes beyond that, because if you take music, for example, there are songs that I've heard that I don't understand anything that they're saying per se, but then there's a way the music is performed or the way it sounds that you almost can understand where the person is coming from or what they're saying without necessarily understanding the words. So I don't think language is only limited to, the various dialects that we speak. I feel like it's broader than that. But if you're talking in specifics to language as in how we communicate, I think it's very important because we can't communicate without it.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So my next question. I know a lot of research definitely went into Goodbye Gold Coast. So what was that like? Did you have to speak to a lot of people? Did you have to go through like old documents?
Shout out to Fui Kantamaklo, my co-writer. I remember during the writing process, we spent a lot of time together for about 5 months or half a year. We wrote like almost every night, and we are actually still currently writing our next audio drama, and we are almost done with the first draft. And we love it. We'll talk about that. So there was a lot of speaking, research meetings. There were times when we even decided to write for like 3 nights. All we did was research, and we kept researching about the history of Ghana, and especially the timeline around which we were writing, because for history a lot has happened, right? And we shared material among each other. If we found any video, any clip anywhere, we'd share, and we spent some time in the library also trying to share some documents with me. And we noticed that at every moment we got so much information, right? We got so much information, and we used like so very little, and we got excited about the fact that we have this very much knowledge about Ghanaian history that we could always go back to, since this is something we decide to keep doing for a while. But then the research process was very, very also tiring, because there were times when you go on the internet, there's no way to actually, or there's very little way to verify whether this is true or this is not true, because even if we look around now and we look around how the media even operates, the language of the media and how the phrase, headlines and everything, right? Imagine how it would have felt 20 years from now, 30 years from now. People are going to fall back on this and call it research.
Yes.
You get my point? Or even 50 years from now, people are just going to fall back on it and call it research. And if you look back, we could see what really, okay, you know what, let's not get into that. Let's move forward. Let's move forward and talk about, Goodbye Gold Coast. Yeah, so I feel like the researching phase was very difficult, and not having time to really, or not even having any way to verify facts, but we had some people around us who had lived during this era who actually had to check the language for us, who had to tell us that there was this part of the drafts where we had referred to Nkrumah as Osajefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and one of the researchers led us to actually understand that he wasn't Osajefo until other people hadn't called him Osajefo after independence. And it was like these small elements that we had to make sure it was accurate. And we had to even decide where was independence declared. Was it the Independence Square? There were times where we had to some research people. You find that people claim it used to be Independence Square and then Polo Grounds. So these were the small things we need to be sure were accurate, because apart from the fact that we were telling a story about two regular people who, of course, might have never made it into history, it still was a story about a history. So we needed to get the facts right to be able to plot the timeline of the everyday people on that.
One thing you said that really struck me is that it took 5 to 6 months.
Yeah.
The audio drama is 30 minutes.
Yes.
How do you condense 5 to 6 months of research and work? Mm-hmm. How do you even begin to cut that into a 30-minute story?
I think when I say the 5 months, what happened was that there was story development. Okay, so when the idea came, I had just wanted to write a story about a young couple who lived in Gold Coast. Yeah. That was like the story idea. So while I was writing, I tried to go in for the first draft. I had in mind, Rose was the first character I created, of course, and I created Reginald as well. So I kept thinking about the story. I kept thinking about Rose and Reginald, and I kept thinking about how independence could be an hindrance to their relationship. Mm-hmm. And I was in a space where I needed someone to write with. And I thought of Fui. So I called Fui and told him, yo, bro, I have this story I want us to write together. It's about this young girl and her partner during Ghana's independence. And Fui is a researcher. I like to call him a historian. Like, he reads a lot about Ghanaian history and he loves the research process as much as I do. So he gets back to me. He's like, you know what, let's do this. So from that very moment, every day, between 9 to 11 or between 10 to midnight, and there are times where it goes even beyond that, but we just try to make sure that every day we write, every day religiously we write, because we had to create the world, we had to create the characters, every single character, and we had to even decide on the style to tell the story, because coming from the point of telling stories with visuals as a filmmaker and not having visuals in this meant having to make sure the story was very clear and the style was defined. So all these had to go through different stages. But I'm sure by the 3rd, 4th month, we were done with a draft, which went out to people to read, send in their notes, right. And then I think I actually also sat on it for a while because I love Horden. I wasn't so sure.
I understand.
I love Horden, so I just be reading the script. I'll go back to the script and I'll read the script and like, is it the right time? It's not the right time. Is it the right time? And yeah, so that's how it started.
Wow, but I'm so impressed by. I mean, a lot of people who watch from the outside, like who are being entertained, you don't necessarily, they just see it as entertainment. And
yes.
Sometimes it pains me. You don't understand the amount of work that goes behind the scenes.
And like, let me tell you something. You listen to the new version, right?
Yeah.
And 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago before the release, 3 weeks before I decided, hey, it's time for me to release it, I was listening to it and I felt like the classroom scene wasn't okay because it was adults who were acting as children.
Yes.
And then it hits me, it was like, you know what, how about you re-record this? So 2 years later, I just decided to go back to cast children. I went to this school, I got children from there some child actors and their teachers. We had to rehearse, and you know how it feels working with children.
Yep.
And very curious, asking questions you hadn't even thought of. Hey, sit here, and they are there. Sit there, like for them to be moving. When they are tired, they are tired.
Yeah.
For an adult, you could go as long as you can, as you could. Like with an adult, they own their own schedule. For these children, their parents are probably waiting for them at home. Their teacher needs to drop them and everything. So having to go back to re-record this bit, especially in a space where I think Ghana has a noise problem. No, Accra. I think Accra has a noise problem. Because tell me why on a Sunday afternoon we decided to record in this classroom after our rehearsals before we could go action. From 3 blocks away, there was a funeral party.
Hey.
From 3 blocks away, there was a funeral party, so we had to move the children to a neighboring school, and we just had to record from there. So yeah, that's also like how tiring it is, and not just it's fun, but then like the 30 minutes you listen to or the 35 minutes you thoroughly enjoyed, this was like the entire process we went through, and this is just the pre-production and production space, and not even the editing. When it comes to editing, what you have to really deal with in all that. Yeah, but then I had an incredible editor. I think one of the best.
Awesome. Shout out.
Shout out.
Do you have any question? Because I feel like
let me see if I do have. And I mean, you're asking really incredible questions. Yeah, let's talk about the very first day, right? How did you ever listen to it before everyone else? Because obviously it was edited in your house, or you decided to stay away from it entirely?
So I wanted to be surprised, and I felt like if I come around so much, then I'll get used to everything, and then it won't have the impacts that it is supposed to have. Like I wanted to feel like everybody else, even though I was in it. I tend to plan my most of the times when I even work on like film sets. Once we finish acting, it's a very conscious effort to forget the story. Yeah. So that when I am watching it, I'm like, oh, wow, we did that, we did this, because it's all new. So it's the same thing I did with this. So even though, yes, it did happen in my house, I was not around at all.
How was the reaction the very first time you had everything come together? Because I'm sure, how was it?
I think it was very interesting. I'm a huge fan of audio dramas. I like leaving people to put the pictures by themselves and just giving them cues, like playing the different audio sounds and the sound design here and the door opening here, just so that I myself can create my own world in my head. I just think it's really cool. And there was a lot of that. Of course, I loved like I said, even when I read the script, I loved that it was, again, such an iconic historical backdrop. I loved everything about it. Yeah,
there's this, I was going through my drive and I saw this photo of you at the very first listening.
Okay.
I saw this photo of you where you were like so much into the drama and you were holding these headphones, and I was like, yes, that's the leading lady. And you seemed so like really proud of the project that we have. Tell me, are you proud of it?
Oh, very much so.
You're proud of me?
Are you asking me because we're on camera?
Oh, wow, sorry. Listen, Adoma sent me the cutest voice notes. Listen, we actually send each other the nicest voice notes. Honestly.
I'm
always looking forward to her voice notes, and it makes me really come alive, because sometimes it feels like you need to be reminded who you really are. I mean, people be forgetting. You really get in that space as an artist. Are there times where you feel like your work is not good enough, or then you take steps back and feel like you feel
I don't know
how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that?
Feel like their work is good enough. Okay, well, maybe except you, because I feel like it exudes a lot of confidence. But yes. Yes, you do.
Then why do I hold everything then?
Oh, I feel like you're a perfectionist. Okay. You're probably like holding it because you want to make sure that, okay, whatever heightened emotion you were feeling at this point, sit with it. This is not like you're excited in that moment. You want to sit with it.
I don't think so. I just think sometimes I'm generally afraid. It's
interesting. Like, you don't give off that vibe.
Thank God.
At all.
Thank God.
At all.
Thank God.
Yeah. Oh no, but yeah, I definitely enjoyed working on it in the process. I mean, I enjoy working with you, so like it's a no-brainer.
Me too. I thoroughly enjoyed working with you, and I can't wait to do this again with you. I can't wait for the next one. Yeah.
All right. So my next question: What went into? What went into? Okay, let me ask this one. What inspired?
Okay, let's go on.
What inspired the approach that you used to tell the story? But I think you've kind of answered that, like the day in the life, with the backdrop that it did. I think you kind of have, but you can speak more on it if you want. And then, what went into selecting the cast?
Selecting the cast. Let's start with selecting the cast. So when we're done, and I woke up one morning and I was like, you know what? I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to put something in the universe. And Free was solidly behind me. It's like, yes, let's do this. So we put out a call.
Yes.
We put out a call, for voice actors. And the casting call, essentially, we needed people to read the opening.
Yes.
We needed people to read the opening, and it was a script about announcing that the Union Jack is going to fly for the last time, and Ghanaians are getting independence. And within an hour, we got like hundreds of emails, and I just don't even know how it happened, right?
Me,
and
after, so like,
oh wow, am I?
Are we surprised?
Oh, don't do that. Nothing, I'm shy. Yeah, so within hours, like we had, and a few days later, over 400 voices, and the script has just about 6 characters. I needed 6 voices, so it was so hard deciding which of the voices become the voices I needed. So in that moment, I got very excited, one, not just about Goodbye Gold Coast, but then I also got excited about the prospect of the number of people out there who are willing to use their voices or who are willing to tell stories with their voices. So I made, I created a folder, and I kept all their voices in there, and I'm trying to create a voice bank, their data, their names, email address, just so for future projects. And there are some of the voices that I want to put a face to. I would like to see what they look like, because the performances these voices gave were incredible. But then when it came down to deciding on which voices to choose, one, like I told you earlier, your voice, I just knew while we were writing, I just knew Rose. I just knew Adoma was Rose. But then regardless, when I heard you sent in a voice as well, you sent in your casting call, like voice, and I just needed no convincing. I just knew I was casting for the rest. I knew I was casting for every single person here, but I wasn't casting for Rose. And one thing I said to make myself feel good about it was that whoever read or whatever voice people sent in wasn't even a performance for Rose. It was a performance for the narrator. So this was my own executive decision of going with this person I'd also always wanted to work with. So when you said yes, I was very excited. And it came down to Uncle Bolt, Cyril. Working with Cyril was incredible. He had also sent in his voice around the time, and Cyril had worked on a number of productions when it comes to audio drama for brands. And so he shared with me some of the production, some of the audio drama stuff he had worked on. So, and invited me to the studio. We went to the studio for a test run. It was just like a test run. We were just reading, and Cyril gave an incredible performance. Cyril was like, you know what, Wackle, the Uncle Boat you are looking for, right? It's right here. And I told him, okay, let's see. And he gave a performance, the switch between him as Cyril and then him as Uncle Boat. It was impeccable. It felt like he had been waiting all his life for this very role. And I could just hear Uncle Boat, and I could hear you also as Rose. So I was just very much in that space where I had my people, and for everything else, everything fell in place, because the voices, I had like 400 voices, and everything else fell in place, and it wasn't easy. There are times when I just think about the possibility of how other voices would have translated some of these characters. There are times where I think about that a lot. And so that was the process. It was hard, but then it was easier with you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I can imagine 400.
Yes, 400
like,
voices.
listening to 400 voices.
And sometimes I get embarrassed when people say, you are auditioned for this thing and I didn't hear from you again. And bro, I needed 7 out of 400. I needed to just get
But then, like,
7 out of 400
the good
voices.
thing that you said is also that you've kept them and
Yeah.
are looking at them for future projects, which is a very good thing. So for some of these people, just bide your time.
Yes, please, tell them.
Very soon,
They
they'll be
should.
calling you for something.
They should.
So, yeah, it wasn't for nothing. Any question you want to ask?
Okay, my question is, what's differently, like how different, or is there anything in particular working on this project taught you, and it could be working with me or working with like the entire crew as well?
Okay.
Was there anything you took away from like the entire process?
So I think this might have been my first proper audio drama. So it was a new experience.
Okay, first of many. Tell them.
Yeah, because I've done audio stories, but it's
Yeah.
not the same thing.
Right.
Yeah, like when you're like
When you're reading.
you're reading and you're narrating the whole thing. So if
Yeah.
the whole story is your
It's
voice.
your voice.
It's a completely different thing from like, because this was like being on a set and acting, but like I'm not necessarily acting because they're not like, I mean, there are cameras for BTS, but like it was a whole different feel. And it was very, very interesting. And it's why I said I enjoyed working with you, because you're very helpful. Your directions were very spot on. Like, you knew exactly what you wanted and how to bring it out of, everybody. Because this was new for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it went really well. We vibed very well.
For me too, it was new for me, and it was, from where I stood, it was you also taking a risk on yourself.
Yes.
Because it's like, yeah, you make films, you write, but you haven't really been in this space before. You haven't done this before. So for people agreeing that, okay, we were going to trust you with our talents for you to do this with us. And your role was very important to me because you are the first voice we hear in the story when it goes in. And there's this silence between the narrator and before we hear your wait. And in that moment, every time I play it out, and every time I watch people listen to it, I just hold my breath to just see, like, after the first sentence, how it feels. And I realized that after the first sentence, everyone just relaxes and really calms down. I'm like, yes, we did that. And for you, what are some of the comments you've heard about the project?
People really, I've gotten a few tags here and there. People really like the project in general. They liked my performance on it. They thought it was very natural and easy. Like sometimes, I think there was one person who asked, so the classroom scene, did you do it with the children? I'm like, no. I didn't do it anybody. We didn't do it anybody because it just felt very natural. I'm like, yeah, thank you, but props to the editor because matching voices and it's not easy. It's not easy at all. So I mean, I did my best, but it's not, the props not only to me. But yeah, those are some of the comments. But I think there's just a general appreciation for what it stands for. Yeah, and everybody also brought their A game. Everybody brought their A game.
Okay, so it looks like we'll be wrapping up soon, right?
Yes, but I have one last question.
Oh.
Yes, I said I'll come back to it.
Let me see.
I said
I might also have one.
This I know the answer to, but I'm to ask everybody.
I'm shy. Oh my God.
A sequel, because people are asking me, and I'm just there like me. I don't know. I don't want to say the end because I don't want to spoil it because I want guys to go and like listen. But people have asked me like, what's happening? What's next? Someone even thought it was a series.
People think it's a series. And like, it's episode 2 out.
Episode 2 coming out. So I'm like,
please.
Ask Joewackle. Yes. Would that be a sequel? And are there any hints on the directions of the story? Be willing to share? Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a sequel.
Okay.
But there is another one coming.
Okay.
Called Gold Coast Darlings.
Okay. Wow.
I mean, it's something like that. Something.
It's giving blockbuster.
Tell them blockbuster. It's giving blockbuster. Yeah.
I like your mind and how your mind works.
Oh, please. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
It's very I wouldn't have thought. But then again, I'm not Wackle.
Don't worry.
Oh,
I mean, you don't have to think about it. Just bring it to life.
Yes,
and
please.
I'm here to think about it.
I'm definitely very excited about this.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about Gold Coast Darlings. Like it's I'm very, very excited.
Yeah.
So excited that I could just wake up at dawn to read the script to make sure it's there.
Hey.
That's how excited I am about it. So
Love it.
yeah, and when the casting call is ready, we'll put it out.
Yes.
And what about you? What are you working on? Anything new? Anything exciting?
I don't like to say too much because I'm more do it and then
Let them know.
yeah, do it first, then we'll see.
Yeah,
But then I am working on a bunch of things that in due time will come out, hopefully, and God willing, it's come out this year. But yeah, yes, just if you have not abandoned me, because I know I can be so inconsistent. Just keep your ears and your eyes to the ground, and yeah, there'll be stuff coming out.
Thank you very much for
Thank you for having me.
This conversation with me. And
Yeah.
before we leave, I'd like us to tell everyone where they can listen to Goodbye Gold Coast. You should listen to Goodbye Gold Coast wherever you listen to your podcast.
Yes,
And
that's what I was going to say.
yes, it's easier to say it that way. It's really easier. And please let us know when you listen, because honestly, sometimes I want to read your feedback. That's what makes me feel like, yeah, people are actually listening. I see the numbers, people are listening, but then when there's silence, it's like, oh, how did they feel about this? Let me know how you feel about the project when you listen to it, and tell other people about it as well. The entire March, I feel like if there's anything you need to listen to is Goodbye Gold Coast. And
It's Ghana month.
yeah, it's Ghana month, and do that while you wear your jersey. Oh, what did they do? What did they do during Ghana month?
I don't know.
What song did they sing?
I don't know. General Assassin.
No, that is what always a Daddy Lumba song.
Daddy Lumba song, yeah.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, whichever Daddy Lumba song
Whichever
you are
that
listening to.
listens to. Yeah, just also cue Goodbye Gold Coast right on the same app. And it's been real. Thank you very much, Adoma.
Thank you for this conversation.
What do we do?
Yeah, and thank you, GCR.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
For the platform to talk about
What's all the amazing things that we've been up to.
Yes.
This feels good because, I mean, I feel like I haven't really sat with people to talk about what I do in a while. And actually before, it's always been the projects that I am really trying to promote like now. And it's always with a host, but having to do it with you.
Yeah, exactly.
And people asking me, so tell us about the process. I feel like you were also involved in the processing.
I actually like the formats.
All right.
Yeah.
See you
All right. Thank you.
on the streets.
Bye.
Bye.
Not on the street.